Welcome to Lunch Without Lunch. If you're online, thank you for joining us virtually. We sort of understand that you didn't make it down here because of the weather, because there are a lot of us who did. So we thank you who came down on this blistery day. A few things before we get started. What shall we start with? Let's go to the next slide. The first thing will be that we're running a contest right now to rename Lunch Without Lunch.
My grandma always told me that the land took care of us, and it still is taking care of us, and it never asked for anything back.
We can go right over to the next one because we'll do something different today. But what were we saying? We're renaming Lunch Without Lunch. So in the hopes that people actually eat at lunchtime because it's an important meal. And there will be a prize. We'd like you to think of the themes of collaboration, diversity, trust building when submitting names for the new Lunch Without Lunch. And we'll unveil the new name in the new year. So check out our social channels. It might be a little buried in there now, but you'll see it posted throughout the next few weeks to get the link to submit a new name idea for Lunch Without Lunch. Okay, so in acknowledging the traditional territories that we live, work, and play upon, today we'll kind of skip the traditional land acknowledgement that we've been doing instead of just reading off a slide. And Amber and I just wanted to share a really special activity that we took part in. Was anyone else there at the blanket exercise last Monday at Innovation Week? No? That's exactly why we wanted to talk about it today, because it was one of the most impactful experiences I've probably ever had. And it walks you through Canada's history of colonization through the lens of Indigenous peoples. And you actually play the role of Indigenous people in this exercise. And the facilitators, we were led by Pam Sparkling Eyes. And if you Google her, you'll find many resources on education on the topic. She works for the Catholic School Board in Edmonton, I believe. And it was just incredible to learn the history in this way. Susanna's shaking her head. Maybe some have done the exercise before. And it's something you can do more than once and take something new away each time. Being that nobody raised their hand, we'll maybe look at how we can bring it back to the ecosystem and draw a bit of a bigger crowd. We didn't have a lot of lead time in promoting it. And so, yeah, maybe we can do it again. But we just wanted to share that it exists. If you're interested in sharing it in your own communities outside of Rainforest too, get in touch, because I feel it really is something we should be sharing more broadly on our path to truth and reconciliation. It's a great experience. So we'll slide through the next couple here so we don't start the video and share this video about the rainforest.
What does it take to realize an idea or for a seed to sprout? At Rainforest Alberta, we know the answer is rooted in trust. Traditionally, Albertans have cultivated their ideas in established systems. Inputs that don't fit these systems are weeded out. Opportunities for growth are missed. But now, Albertans want a dynamic landscape that can evolve organically, like a rainforest. At Rainforest Alberta, we believe a culture of trust is the fertile soil where ideas grow. Our budding innovation ecosystem is a network of relationships pulling each other up as they push forward in their own field. Trust breaks down barriers. An open, inclusive network increases collaborative innovation. Successful breakthroughs inspire new ideas. A cycle begins. Rainforest Alberta is a movement to amplify trust by cultivating honesty, inclusion, and accountability. How? Our social contract holds us accountable to demonstrate trust across the province. We meet to have honest conversations around collaboration. This leads to more inclusive spaces for everyone to fearlessly build new ideas together. By raising the standard of trust, Alberta's ideas, talent, and resources can be evergreen. Visit rainforestab.ca to sign the social contract and start growing together.
Okay, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Bridget Legault, if you don't know me. I'm the community manager with Rainforest, and we have Amber Rowden here, our community storyteller. We have quite a few housekeeping things to share with you today, so we'll try to get through those quickly. We use 6 pillars to guide our conversations in the tech ecosystem. They are not weighted equally, with the most important culture and leaders weighted the heaviest. We do measure these every year with our annual scorecard assessment. You'll see that released in the very early days of January to measure 2022, so watch for that. We'll go to the next slide. Here is a QR code. If you haven't signed the social contract that was just discussed in the video, use that QR code to access it and please sign. We've mentioned it previously, but we are working with our friends at Inclusity who are here. Yay. Our friends at Inclusity are helping us do some inclusive user testing on the social contract. And we do need a handful of folks from the existing community to take part in that, and others will be from diverse groups around the city. So do we have enough internal people yet? Okay, so if you're interested, talk to Stephen or Uriel about taking part in that. It's just a quick test. I think you get a little bit of cash and you can help us create a more inclusive social contract. On to the next slide. Okay, one of the biggest initiatives. So you may have seen us a bit here and there last week during Innovation Week. We tried to promote this throughout, but it was a bit tricky. So we just really want to bring awareness to this pilot we're hosting, supported by the Calgary Innovation Coalition and in turn Alberta Innovates and some supporters just of their time here in the ecosystem of the Inkly platform. So you can use this code right now to access a type form where you'll just give us your contact info and then we can get you put onto the platform. The platform is driven by curiosity and fueled by generosity. So what does that mean? If you have a question about anything and everything under the sun, as far as innovation and technology goes in the province, you can ask that question on the app. Your question will then be matched through algorithms to individuals who are uniquely positioned to answer that question. Hopefully you continue that connection and conversation outside of the app, and we'll also be hosting a lot of our content there in time as well. So that you sign the social contract before participating, of course, and that you share this very widely. We will be hosting a handful of demo days over the next month and a half. So if you need some help navigating the app or just want to understand it a little better, you can join us for one of those demo days. If you've already signed the social contract, you would have gotten an email about this. And if you didn't, please contact Amber and I, and we'll get you on it. If you'd like to host a demo, last point, for your internal organization for the app, just let us know and we'd be happy to come do that with you. That it? What's next?
I think that's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
Amber might just share a little bit about the Rethinking Leadership initiative we had going on last week, because it will carry on well into 2023. These little flashlights are all about shining the light on new ways of thinking about leadership, new leaders, people that inspire you, ideas that inspire you. And there's some hashtags you can use to acknowledge those folks on social media. What else?
All right, awesome. Yeah, so last week during Innovation Week, we partnered with Megan Donahoe and Alicia White, who helped us rethink leadership. Throughout the 5 days, they shared different ways on how we can rethink leadership. And one of the activities was hashtag share the sunlight. So you take that flashlight, and when you meet someone in a new conversation and you're inspired by them or inspired by what they're doing, you take that flashlight and you shine it on them, preferably not in their eyes. I mean, no one really likes that. Yeah. And you shine it on them and you take a picture and you share that on social media with how they're changing the world, how they're changing the ecosystem, and how they inspire you. And post on social media with the hashtag share the sunlight. And it's just to bring awareness to all these leaders in the ecosystem and in rainforest. And we also have some activities that you may have saw out there for coffee collisions. And so we have people hanging up on the wall, and it's to challenge our assumptions. So you take a pink sticky note and you see these group of people, and if you're walking into a room with them and you see, one person that you might not talk to or one person that you might talk to, you put those assumptions with that person and say why you would talk to them or why you wouldn't talk to them, because we all have assumptions about people when we first meet them. But the challenge is rethinking those assumptions. So you take that yellow sticky note and you go and ask them a question rather than just saying, I wouldn't talk to you because you look scary or you look intimidating. You ask them a question about themselves. So we want to continue doing this leadership work, and we will continue doing this leadership work, like Bridget said, into 2023. And we'll be working with Megan and Alicia to do that. So look for more of that in 2023. And if you want to get involved, of course, please let us know. And now I would like to introduce Margo and Greg. They are two community co-founders of the Rainforest, and they are doing amazing things at InceptionU. They have been helping us as well, coming to Lunch Without Lunch, sharing trust building activities, and creating ways for the community to connect and build relationships and connections. So we're very excited to have them here with us today, and they are role models in their own true sense. So please welcome Margo and Greg.
Okay, so because it's not a really beautiful day outside, and I know this in an intimate way because I rode my bike here today and did not wear long underwear, that was a mistake because it's a little bit windy and, you know, the Lululemon pants aren't good enough for the wind. So important tip for anybody else who's thinking about doing that today. Yeah, so because like half the people are here and half the people are online, the activity that we're going to do today works best in person. However, we are going to make an attempt to do it both in person and online.
An attempt.
An attempt. It's good that we're close to the train tracks because it could look a little bit like a train wreck. So, so that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to see how it goes. So, essentially, I mean, we all know that this being in the innovation ecosystem isn't just a thing to be in the innovation ecosystem. It's about doing stuff. It's about changing the future. And Rainforest has been around for a while now. Brad, how long? 6 years? Yeah. So, you know, all these things go through evolution. So the question we want to ask you today is a really important one. And that is, if there was one thing that you thought that we could do as a group, so what Rainforest needs to do as a group to make the biggest impact on an ongoing basis to the innovation ecosystem, what would that thing be? That thing that you think that we need, all of us need to be doing, biggest impact possible. So it could be something that's already happening, but just needs to be like tweaked or done in a different way, or something that's not happening right now that you think if we just did this thing, it would make a really big difference. So what I'm going to suggest for those of you who are here and those that are playing along at home, is to make a list using either your digital device or an actual pen and paper. Just try, if I'm going to give you a few minutes just to brainstorm 5 things, 3 to 5 things that you could come up with on your own. Don't talk to other people. If you talk to other people, we throw you out.
In the cold.
Sorry, it's a way, it's sometimes diversity hurts. Like it's a way of maintaining diversity. So come up with 3 to 5, just brainstorm them, things you think would have big impact if Rainforest was doing them. Okay, so while you're finishing this up, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next is you're going to take your idea that you believe in fiercely believe in, and you are going to go and sit down with somebody else who also has a fierce belief in their idea. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to exchange with each other your ideas. And at the end of the 3 minutes, somebody has to win. Okay, so at the end of the 3 minutes, one of you has a better idea than the other one. And you have to agree on who has the better idea. Okay, no consensus.
For those of you online, I am Margo. I will be guiding you through this. And I will do my best. And you do have the ability to unmute yourselves online now, folks. So, okay.
Okay. So does that all make sense? You got this idea. You need to be able to explain it clearly and quickly to the other person so that you have enough time to argue before you make a decision. I mean, discuss before you make a decision. All right. Don't be afraid to get up. I know usually when we do this, the person next to you is the first person, but we're going in pairs. So you got to find another person. So right now, find another person. If you're online, Margo is just going to put you with another person.
And it shows me that every room has 2 people, folks. For those of you online, if you are in a room by yourself, please call me in and I'll work to get you in a group. Have fun.
So don't be afraid to move around the room. Who needs a partner? Who needs a partner? Well, what's happening is now you've made a decision about which of your ideas was the best idea. And now you're a team. So even though you might have not been successful in getting your idea into the next round, that's okay, because now you're part of a team with an even better idea that you decided was the best idea. So what's going to happen next is we're going to have another 3-minute round, but this time you're going to take your team and you're going to go meet up with another team, and you're going to have the same conversation, only with different and more people. And at the end of the 3 minutes, you need to determine which of your teams has the best idea. So that's how this is going to roll. And right away, you're going to notice soon I'm going to have to get out of my chair. It's going to be necessary. So just like prepare yourself for that exertion. So before I start the timer, though, I'm going to check in with my online compatriot. Do I need to stretch a little bit more or what? A tiny bit more. Okay. Ready to go. So find another team that you're going to take on. And so get lined up with them before I start the timer.
Great. I'm opening up the rooms.
Everybody got everybody lined up? Okay, great. Okay, I'm starting the clock. Here we go. 3 minutes. Best idea. Two minutes to go. 1 minute to go. 1 minute. Okay.
Sorry, those rooms just aren't long enough.
Time is up. Time is up. There's far too much laughing going on. I'm very disturbed by that. Okay, so now we have a bigger team that's got an idea that they all believe in. And this is the trick. This is the discipline in doing this, that there might have been a thing that you started with, you really believed in, that you're now no longer attached to. And that's hard. So to be willing to just like give yourself over to the new idea that the team is working on takes a lot of discipline, but I know everybody in here can do it. So I'm not worried about it. Maybe the people online also, but I can't see them. So it's harder. So here's what's going to happen next. We're going to do another round that might last a little longer, not much longer, but because we're giving allowances for the fact that there are more people, you're going to take your new larger team and you're going to go connect to another larger team. And I think that should end us up with probably only a couple of teams left probably in the room. So do that now, go and match up with another team. And let's just make sure we're all paired up, or if we need to make an adjustment. Okay, so we're down to 2 groups and 1 on each side of the room. Well, that's going to be very convenient for the battle royale. I think I'm going to give you more like 4 minutes this time. Well, say your idea fast so you have more time to argue. Yeah.
Online, they have 3 ideas to share. Could we give 5 minutes, do you think?
Okay, we're going to go with 5 minutes.
5 minutes, folks.
5 minutes.
Advocated for you. I expect gift cards and baked goods. All right, have fun.
Starting now. Okay, so here's where we are. Were you able to come to a consensus about who was the winner? Yes? This team over here, were you able to come to a consensus? Yes. Online people, were you able to come to a consensus of who had the best idea? Yes.
We've got your faces up on the big screen, by the way. So, yep, nodding is awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Picking your nose, not such a good idea. Just saying. Okay, so that means we have 3 groups. And of this 3 groups, we have to find the best idea from the 3 groups. So here's what we're going to do. Each group needs to have a spokesperson who's going to be able to explain their idea to the other 2 groups. And then we'll just do, each one will present, and then we'll just let the train wreck fly. Okay, so let's try getting the online people to speak first. Does that make sense?
We're gonna try.
Okay, so whoever's going to be the spokesperson for the online group's idea, lay it on us.
I think that's me. So the idea that we came up with was basically trying to incubate entrepreneurs and people who have great ideas but don't have the resources to develop those ideas by creating a support group that reviews their ideas and determines if it's a good idea or if it's a bad idea. And if it's a bad idea, that's helpful because then the person doesn't have to continue spending their time and effort in developing it. But if it's a good idea, they need resources to develop it. And so one of the first steps then is to determine if the idea is being developed elsewhere. And if it is, then that might be great, and you might just drop it at that point. But if not, and you can think you can do it better, then we can develop it. And the idea is then to take that concept and develop milestones with some professional help to determine, what needs to be done next. And some funding would get provided as each milestone is met, so that the inventor is supported along the process. And then once you get to a viable prototype, you can apply for traditional assistance and grants, and take it to the marketplace, and then hopefully have some assistance, crossing the chasm when you get to that point.
Okay, was that clear for everybody? Awesome. Thank you, Jeff, I think it was who was speaking. And good work, team, getting it down to one. All right, let's go to my right side of the room and hear from the spokesperson here who's going to tell us their idea. It's going to be Susanna.
Hello, I'm Susanna. Lovely to be here. Thank you very much. So our idea has morphed and created, but the fundamental has stayed the same. And it really comes back to looking at Rainforest's foundation, where innovation isn't a place, it's a state of mind. And one of the things is around accessibility. So some people have experienced some interesting experiences here in this building and elevators and such. And also just knowing about Rainforest. So if you know, that's awesome, you're here, but there's a lot of Calgarians that don't. I would say the majority. So one of the ones is to do meeting people where they're at. So when I was a teacher, we would do school-wide how might we design challenges. And so it would be facilitators, faculty, students, teachers, everyone at the different grades, and we would come together to do the same design challenge. And the amount of innovation that came out of that was phenomenal. And people are starving to have community connections, as well as to have an impact in their own city. There isn't direct ways for people that they feel that they can do that. But by having pop-up sessions for innovation and design challenges around the city, where we look at the same design challenges for innovation to help Calgary be a better place to live. So popping up in churches, schools, city hall, on the street, leisure centers, anywhere that you can think that you could have somewhere to meet somewhere, senior centers, cultural centers, anywhere that you have that, so that you can have these ideas being put together. Because we don't know what's going on in these communities and what kind of innovation needs to happen. So for one example is I was working with a group of seniors in the Southwest. They wanted to use their community center for programming and they got denied. They said, you're not welcome here. So unless you know, you got to figure that kind of stuff out. So that's our idea.
Thank you very much, Susanna. So there's only one group to go. And I would say there's a lot of pressure on this group because the first two ideas were pretty good. So I'm over to you to amaze us with the third one.
Hello, everyone. Al Deldegan here. The interesting thing that we found over here on our side is every time someone came over to argue their idea, it ended up merging together and becoming one great idea. So I'll tell you the origin story of the idea, and that
sounds like cheating, but anyway, go on.
No, there was some good discussion, but the origin story of the idea is the fact that we want to make sure that when youth are growing up through their education and their experiences, that they realize that getting a job, and becoming an entrepreneur are equal opportunities. They're both viable and exciting opportunities, not just go out and get a job. And in turn, through our ideation, we also want to address the concept of the lack of inclusion and sort of stuff that happens in the industry for women entrepreneurs, and the what's the word I'm looking for? The negative things that happen out there that are happening out there to people who are diverse and female entrepreneurs and stuff. And so it goes back to that idea of you can address what's going on right now by trying to find ways of fixing it. But you can also look at everybody who's coming up from the ground and change the way they think at the beginning so that they don't have the same biases, and then things won't be as likely to happen in the future. And so that very, very much ties together. And I hope I got that right, Bridget, because you are so much more eloquent than I am. But so the general gist there is we need our rainforest community to somehow find ways of attracting youth into entrepreneurship ideas and about diversity and inclusion together in that aspect. So hopefully I did that justice.
And now the death match. I'm just kidding.
Yes, the death match. Now the train wreck actually is this is where it goes. Okay, so thank you for that. That's great. Okay, so we have 3 ideas, and as you might have guessed, there really is no cheating in this process. But here's what's going to happen now. So we've got 3 ideas. We need to get one that is the king of all 3. And so I want all 3 groups, or the queen, the ruler to rule them all, or just the best one. So you need to decide amongst all of you now, which of these is the best one. So ask questions of each other, of each other's groups, and get a conversation going. If it feels better to stand up and face each other, that sometimes adds a different kind of vibe to the event. So I would encourage you to do that. It helps. And so, yeah, that's the next stage. So away you go.
So if we started with Al's at the bottom, attracting youth in advance, and then we moved up to number 2, meeting people where they're at, and had pop-up stations, that's one. So we're doing both. So we're going to jump into different communities. We're all entrepreneurs, and we're going to work with young people and the community. So both of those can go together. And then if we move up to the top one and we put that one with them, we're creating support groups, not only for entrepreneurs, but we're also creating opportunities for young people. So I think all 3 really is just one great idea because we're such good collaborators. Sorry.
I have trouble arguing with the logic, but I also want to see some fireworks. Did somebody online want to say something? Thought I heard somebody. Okay, if I didn't, Susanna, I'll give the mic to you.
I love that idea. And then I would love to add to that idea too. So one of the ones that New Idea Machine is helping Calgarians with is really bridging the gap between new grads and the experience, which benefits all of us. So the great idea, like I'm a super ideas person. I come up with about 100 ideas a minute, but where are the people to make these things happen? So if we can bring these together, have that idea house, and then have those different projects, so that then you're being able to hire more people to try more things. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win.
Many wins. Okay, anybody online have anything they want to offer up? Like prove that we shouldn't collaborate on these ideas and maybe yours is just better than the other ones? Bridget has a question for the online people.
And sorry, maybe I just missed it, but The clearinghouse, Greg's written it down as the support group and clearinghouse for ideas and businesses. So maybe I missed it, but how are we deciphering if it is a good or bad idea?
Details.
You have a team of experts that would be, appointed by Rainforest or something like that, that would look at it. So if it's an engineering idea, then you do that. If it's a software idea, then you have software experts look at it, so forth.
And I remember you did mention that one of the things you'd be looking at is to see if other people were already doing it as one of the criteria that you'd look at. Is that helpful, Bridget? You sure? You don't look like completely. Okay.
Can we ask questions from online?
You definitely can.
So feels like a lot of this is happening already in the province in various pockets. It feels like there's a lot of accelerators and programs and, funding initiatives and that sort of stuff, but it seems perhaps it's just not knitted together as effectively as it should be. Isn't it already happening to some degree is my question?
That's a good question. And my personal take when I was hearing especially that's just the first idea that came from you folks online, was it sounded different to me than an incubator or accelerator in some ways. And so the question is that idea addressing a gap in what you're talking about, Pete? Like, in other words, yeah, for sure, there are a ton of these programs, but does this idea actually address a gap or maybe approach it in a more grassroots way? That's kind of the thought that popped into my head. I mean, I don't have an answer for that, but that's just to kind of piggyback on your question. That's
So I have a bit of an answer for that. I've been through a couple of accelerator programs and incubator programs, and they're great for providing information on how to set up your business and where to go to find people, but they're very limited on financial support. So for instance, Alberta Innovates has a $5,000 grant that is available to help have somebody research whether or not the idea is viable. Well, what if you have an idea that's going to take $500,000 to get it off the ground, but it's really worth doing? So there's definitely a gap between what's available and what an inventor needs, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a risk and a funding gap that tends to be recognized in the industry right now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people talk about funding and they talk about the barriers to funding, and even in the case of the $5,000 that could be well spent in one way, you're forced to spend it with somebody else or whatever. Like there's a bunch of rules and everything around funding. Ryan, I see you got your hand up online there.
Yeah, so I really like all these ideas, and obviously they can all kind of commingle in a lot of good ways. One of the things that I would see as a gap right now is being able to tie all the ideas that we come up with in these sessions into action, right? And so I really like the idea of meeting people where they're at and a sort of community pop-up idea. And that's a really great idea for brainstorming. I can't remember your name, I apologize, who said, those brainstorming sessions and how great they can be, especially with the schools and students. But how do we turn all of this into an action? I think that's what I see as a really big gap right now. So whether that's through a support group or the clearinghouse idea or whatever it is, creating action, I think, is the next step after ideation.
Bridget really wants to answer your question, but I'm not going to let her. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, action matters.
Action matters. And I think right now, sorry, the camera's over there, I like the back of my hair. Right now in the behind the scenes, I guess, of the rainforest, we have seen an incredible, diverse group of individuals step up and take it into their own hands and create some of these initiatives. Some of them are off the side of their desks. Some of them are completely 100% volunteer. Whether or not they're visible to everybody or not, they're happening. Some work with inclusivity, some of the people here today, and it's happening. So how does it happen? By just doing, I think, is how it happens. And so Yeah, that's just my little plug for it. Just do.
Somebody could make that a slogan. And on a suggestion that we have is in terms of a follow-up to the activity today is if we like these 3 ideas, the next activity is actually to structure it in such a way that it can be done, because you don't want to stop at a place where, well, if everybody thinks these are actually really valuable, then it's not an academic exercise to say, hey, these are 3 things that'd be really valuable. That was fun. Okay, what's for lunch? So that's an important next step that can work. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, the process of the activity that you went through, and we call this forced consensus. It's kind of a pyramid building kind of idea, but we call it forced consensus because it puts a little bit of an edge on it, makes you kind of get to the point quickly. And it's not so much that the answer you get at the end is the best answer. It's that you have the conversations with each other about the best answer. So it surfaces a lot of understanding about the challenges, which would be hard to get in other formats so quickly. So there's an opportunity for you to talk, and plus putting you in competition with each other and still having to like each other is always a nice activity to do in the spirit of the social contract. But at the end of this, it isn't an academic exercise. The idea is to find things that will actually move things, that will change things. And so if we see something that we think does that, then we have a responsibility to go the next step, right? And the people who contributed the next step might not be here today. And that's fine. That's great, in fact. So yeah, so that's just my little plug for how where it fits in the process. Anybody else want to jump in with a comment of any kind?
Greg, Pete here again. I'll be quick. I think our innovation ecosystem here in the province is still in that maturing stage, and there's others that have progressed faster than Alberta and Western Canada. And I'm sure that some of these ideas are already being punched out and implemented. So can we pick those up from some of the other regions? If you read the rainforest book or some of the other ecosystems, they're advanced faster and farther than we are. So there it is.
Hey, it's Marty Kennett here. It just seems to me that number 3, when I'm looking at these suggestions, it looks like number 3 is a why. It's almost like a vision. It's a vision or a mission. The 2 seem to be the hows. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to get attracting the youth? How are we going to get the D&I? The 2 seem to be like, those are tactical, they're implementations. So I just wonder, again, in the spirit of consensus and rainforest, it looks like we've all come to a consensus here that something needs to be done. And we're all pretty much agreeing on the same thing. So sadly, there's not going to be much conflict here.
Oh, no, but you did introduce a nice piece of conflict there, which I really enjoy. You basically just said we should scratch number 3 off the board. Like as an idea, not as a how, as a thing to be done. But what you're suggesting is number 3 is more properly considered to be part of what informs the activities of these other 2. Like, in other words, this, as you said, is a vision, an outcome to be generated from these other 2 things. That's what I heard you say. Yeah. So that was good. They won't be able to hear you online.
I agree with what Marty's saying, but I think that number 3, that just makes it seem almost more valuable than really looking at that as how might we do this, and coming up with action steps, coming up with possible solutions.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't make it any less. If in fact it's an outcome and these things are coupled to plays that we're going to make towards that outcome, then without this, we don't have any direction. So yeah, I totally agree. It's very important. I was just trying to make people fight. That's, that's what facilitation is all about.
Hi, I'm Yara. I just had a point someone said earlier about how you would do the design, like pop up or the idea. So there's in tech, they do design sprints, especially in Google. It's like a 5-day, they come up with ideas and try to solve and create it within 5 days to see if it's viable or not. Every idea goes through that 5-day design sprint. So that's something that how do we look at innovation in that same sort of sprint idea? Because that they look at technology, but how do we look at innovation in that 5-day design? And they have like really good steps that is available online that I think could be created.
And there might be an entire unschool called Inception that actually does that stuff. You never know. You never know.
So I'm kind of goal orientated. Tomorrow's December 1st. We could set a goal of saying 10,000 youths, 500 schools, 1,000 awards, December 1st, 2023. How do we start that tomorrow to accomplish that goal for 2023? 10,000 kids or youth, K to 12, 500 schools, 1,000 awards. So we can a reward or celebrate their achievement of what they've accomplished and start that tomorrow, 12 months to get it done.
So there's going to be another lunch without a lunch tomorrow to get that in play. But yeah, personally, very sympathetic to that approach. I mean, that is what needs to happen. We need to say, there's two things: how far are we going to go and how quickly, and then how are we going to actually structure the idea, back to the design sprint idea in terms of, putting it together. And that is the next decision to be made, is how quickly we do that. I'm thinking maybe not tomorrow. Right. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I sort of find that that's a little bit limiting. It's great that we're focusing on students, and students are also, really important aspect of the whole ecosystem. But let's not just focus on students. I'll be honest with you. I'm one of these people here that doesn't really know exactly what I'm doing. But so we don't want to, like, I'm sorry, when I hear just students, like, what about the rest of us? Like, we don't want to limit it to that, because there's actually, I would say there's more programs out there for people who haven't got to things like, like, there's not, trust me, there's not as much out there for people over 50. Sorry.
It's true. Well, and actually your point's really well taken. And if I think of the idea, the second one, which is meeting people where they are, that people is a placeholder for that. And what's really interesting actually about your comment too, Alan, is that we know that on average, the average age of successful startup founders is what? 45.
50, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an important point that you're making, but I take from that meeting people where they are, if we kind of like put a circle around people, then we start to think, okay, demographically, who are those people? Psychographically, who are those people? And then what is required to meet those people where they are, knowing those things, right? So yes, if we care about people who are 50 plus, who are entrepreneurs or want to be, and then we say we're going to focus all our activities in elementary schools, maybe I pick up a couple of teachers or a principal, but that's going to be about it, right? So it's really important in defining that. It's like, how we're talking about all people, like that's the inclusive idea of this. And I would agree that there is a lot less available for somebody who's in the 50 plus age range to support them with doing this kind of stuff. So that's as important for sure. Great point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is. Ryan's got his hand up, but do you want me to cut him off? Yeah. Okay, so after Ryan, you're like last word. So we're all bracing ourselves.
Okay, well, I'll try not to disappoint, but it seems to me, just sort of based on the conversation, that number 2 is almost more of a, this might be the wrong terminology, but almost more of a sort of market research opportunity. Figure out who those people are and start talking to them and get more information about what we need to help those people succeed in the ecosystem, whether they're students or people over 50 or entrepreneurs or people just sort of into a more standard career path, or just general sort of people from, I don't know, across the province. And then from there, that sort of informs how we take action to support them, Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I take it as the thing that I like about that idea that stands out for me, since I have the microphone, I'm going to say, is that it's about us going to the people. It's not about, hopefully they'll come to lunch without a lunch. It's about going to the people. And I think in the beginning of Rainforest, that's actually what happened. The core group of people went to other people and brought people to Rainforest that way. And I mean, that was mostly through arm twisting and persuasion and all that stuff. But what we're talking about here is maybe something a bit more sophisticated. I'm kind of excited by that. Like personally, I'm super happy we did this today just to surface that idea alone. So, yeah, we're at the end of the time. Yeah. And so thank you. It was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. Like it wasn't a train wreck at all, actually. So part of me is very disappointed by that. And part of me is grateful. So thank you, everybody. Margo, spectacular job keeping the people together online. Great work, everybody. And thanks for, we'll talk about next steps. Bridget.
Throw it out to community announcements if anybody has any online, or Al has one.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to plug the Rainforest podcast and let you know that we're looking for sponsors. We've had a couple people step up to sponsor one episode. I'd love to see someone sponsor 5 or 10 episodes. So please reach out. I also want to mention that I dragged my son Tony in. If you listen to the podcast on Tuesday, this is him. This is stand up, son. This is Tony Deldegan. Tony edits the podcast for us, and he's also an amazing, talented writer, artist, and musician. So thought I'd just plug Tony.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
Hi, everybody. My name is Krista. I'm with Community Now. I just wanted to say that we have our mental health summit coming up. This is our 5th annual on December 14th. I believe you guys will be there. Al is speaking, and there's Peter will be there as well, along with many other people. And I hope you can all make it down. Yeah, Margo's there, just about everybody. Thanks.
We'll be live streaming Lunch Without Lunch at that event, and it will be an Inkly demo. Any other announcements? All right. Have a great day, everybody. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the screen.
Sorry, yeah, I have to just start talking instead of using the raise hand feature. It's a little slow. Yeah, so one of the organizations that I work with is called the Alberta Esports Association. We're one of the community partners for Platform, actually. And last week, we just launched our provincial esports strategy that we did in collaboration with Calgary Economic Development, Edmonton Screens Industries Office, Explore Edmonton, Calgary Tourism, and a bunch of other stakeholders. So we now have a pretty strong strategy for how we want to move forward with esports in the province. So if anyone is interested in looking into that, I'll throw my LinkedIn into the chat. We also did some news posts, of course, about it last week. But
can you throw that in our Slack as well, Ryan?
I believe I can, yes.
That'd be awesome. Okay, thanks, everybody. I think we can stick around in this classroom for a bit to chat and network if we'd like. Oh boy, another one. Where, who, what?
Sorry,
Dave, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I was just wondering,
Or Ray.
how can you even get on the Slack there? I'm not even in that yet.
Once you sign the social contract, you should receive an onboarding email. We were having technical challenges with it. So if you've signed the social contract and did not receive instructions on how to get on Slack, just email us info@rainforestab.ca.
Okay.
Likely.
I will do that. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.